So, I watched X-Men 97 episode 5 and what's going on, y'all? So thank y'all for clicking on this video. Do not forget to subscribe. Trying to get to 1K before 2025. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Letterboxd down below. Follow me on all those for more reviews, and let's review X-Men 97 episode 5. So basically in this episode we follow three main characters in a way, if that's what you want to call it. Magneto, Gambit, and Rogue, and then Nightcrawler shows up too. Nightcrawler isn't really a big character in this episode, but right as he pops up on screen, he's a likable character. I promise you, right as he popped up, I was like, okay, he's fun. He's fun in this episode. Hopefully we get to see him in the next episode. So those three main characters, they go to Genosha, I think it's Genosha, which is a popular place in the comics. And there's something going on with the UN, something like that. I'm trying to give y'all a gist, not to spoil it, because this is a very spoiler-ish, in a way, episode, and let's just say a lot of stuff goes down, like a lot towards the end. But this episode was brutal, sad, bloody. If you want to call it disturbing, I guess that's the right word. Let's say mostly sad. I'm not going to say why, because I'm not going to spoil it for y'all, obviously, but it's a very sad episode. So first, let's get into the positives. So my first positive is that all these characters in this episode that were the main characters, like Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit, their character arcs are absolutely phenomenal. They're absolutely phenomenal. Like, just the way they were written in this episode, just the way they had their dynamic with each other, just the way they were fleshed out, and their personality. You actually cared about these characters in this episode, I loved the first two episodes, episode 1 and 2. 3 and 4, I wasn't the biggest fan of, I know most people liked them. I personally didn't. I didn't think they were horrible. I just thought they were okay. But this episode may have actually turned the season around for me. And we have 5 more episodes, I think. Just the way they were fleshed out in this episode, all 3 of them. Like I said, you cared about them, and like I said earlier, there's something that happens at the end. Not going to say what happens, but it's sad. It really is. And I'm sitting there and I'm like right as I turned off the episode, I had chills. Like, no joke. Right as I turned it off, I had chills. And I'm like, so I want to know where the next episode goes from here. I want to know. But another really good positive about this episode is that even though it is an animated show, nothing wrong with that, there were some cool shots. Like, there was one in particular cool shot at the very end where I had to do with the city, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like this episode. I kind of like this shot, like, just looking at it, it looked real almost, And speaking of the animation, like visuals and all that, there's really cool. And I'm not an anime fan. I've never actually really watched anime in my life. But if you're a huge anime fan, like diehard anime fan, oh, you're going to love this. You are absolutely going to love this. Like, there is some anime influence in this. The way they created the animation this episode in particular, it is really cool. It is like, and that's coming from a person who's not an anime fan, a person who's never watched anime in his life. Like, it is really different, but kind of cool. You know what I mean? But Magneto in this episode, man, he is absolutely freaking overpowered. And there's something he does with a particular object, fighting a particular character. And I'm like, whoa. Like, it is nonstop action and destruction in this episode. And I don't really have many negatives. I'm not done talking about the positives, but I don't really have many negatives in this episode. I really don't. Like, I don't really want to say I was surprised that I liked this episode, but I was, because episode 3 and 4 was kind of let down with, and I'm glad I'm finally back on track with this series, and I'm excited for the last 5 episodes and the next episode, I'm excited for it. And Jean and Cyclops have a big presence in this episode. A big, what's another word for presence? Y'all know what I mean. Like a big, a role in this episode. Big role. And both of them go off at some point. Cyclops goes off at somebody, and they go off on each other, and it is nuts. And I'm like, and then Wolverine gets involved with a certain character, and Cyclops gets involved with a certain character, and it's just all over the place. But it's like fighting over here, fighting over there, destruction, boom, boom, boom. It's crazy. Like, it's sad. Like, what everyone goes through in this episode is just, it's really heartbreaking. It really is. And just thinking back to it, it really is pure X-Men. It's pure X-Men, and it's pure, I guess if you wanted to say, if this makes sense, pure reality, because they're struggling in this episode, all of them. And it's just, Beast is in this episode. He doesn't really have much to do in this episode at all, but when he's in it, of course, he's cool. Wolverine's great in the episode. Cyclops and Jean. Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit. Nightcrawler. I don't think anyone else really has a big role in this. Storm's not in this episode. A certain character shows up. A certain character shows up at the end, before all destruction happens, and I'm like, what does this mean? What's going on? You know, like, there's something going on or something like that. Jubilee and not Pyro, what's his name, Sunspot, they're not in this episode, but I have a feeling they might be in the next one. But yeah, it's crazy. And I don't really have any positives. Negatives, like I said earlier, but if I had to think about it, I would say maybe the episode could have been longer, but the pacing was fine. You know, it was a good amount of length for an episode, but I feel like that goes with all these type of series, you know? Like, I feel like they should honestly be an hour, maybe even 50 minutes, you know? Above 30 minutes, like 40, 50 an hour, preferably an hour, but that's really the only... Maybe I was on my phone a few times. I wouldn't say I was really bored, but I don't really have any negatives for this episode. I really don't. Well, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I'm going to give X-Men 97 episode 5 a 4 out of 5 stars. If you're a huge X-Men fan, huge Marvel fan, X-Men animated series fan, or as of right now, X-Men 97 fan, I feel like you're going to absolutely love this. Majority of fans and people right now are absolutely loving it, so I would definitely recommend y'all watch it. It is a heartbreaking episode, but it is a fun, action-packed episode. So thank y'all so much for watching. Do not forget to like this video, comment, share, and subscribe. Try to get to 1K before 2025. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Letterboxd down below. Follow me on all those for more reviews. And until next time, my wonderful people, I will talk to y'all later. Cheers.